I am sick of dooming. It feels like every day there's just some new post about how everything sucks and never anything about how we can make things better. And I want to change that. If we really want to address the problems that we have to actually start building solutions to them. Whether you like it or not, we as humans, like the human race, we've put ourselves in this position, and it's up to us to get ourselves out of it as well. I mean, sure, maybe planet Earth would be better without humans on it. Some people say that, but I don't agree. I think that we are amazing, and personally, I like being alive. I like getting to experience the wonders of life. It's up to us to build solutions to make our world a more sustainable one, because the one that we have right now is not sustainable. That's what I'm talking about today. My plan to try and build something to help make the world a little bit more sustainable. And I've got it all written out on this whiteboard right here. I'm gonna go over every single one of these points of my plan to try and build something to make the world a little more sustainable. This fourth one here, I think, is the most exciting and interesting one. And it all starts with this, kombucha. Now, don't laugh. I know how crazy that sounds. And I know that it sounds kind of like, oh, peace and love, man. We just need to make kombucha and we'll all get along. But I promise there's real science and real biology here that explains why kombucha could be transformed into a real sustainable biomaterial that can help us filter our water, help plants grow in harsh conditions, or even as a sustainable carbon neutral or carbon negative building material, or even as a scaffold to help pull carbon dioxide out of the air. And I'm going to get to how that works and why I'm going to be trying to build that here right now. It starts with kombucha. What is kombucha anyways? Let me get these off. Kombucha is a beverage that we brew from tea and sugar. We add those together with a SCOBY. A SCOBY is a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. The bacteria and yeast, these microbes in this mixture, transform the nitrogen in the tea and the carbon in the sugar into acetic acid, other flavors that kind of make this drink have its fizzy taste, and a cellulose layer on the top of the culture to protect the bacteria and yeast from the oxygen in the air. You can actually see right here in this, that kind of substance, that kind of whitish material that's sitting there, it's a little bit submerged in this one. That thing is made of cellulose. In particular, it's called bacterial cellulose because it's produced by the bacteria. But what is cellulose in the first place? Cellulose is kind of a structural material. If you look at trees, the things that give wood its structure is largely cellulose. Paper is made out of cellulose. Leaves, the structure of leaves is largely due to cellulose. It's basically kind of a scaffold material that things can grow off of. What makes bacterial cellulose special in particular is that it's really thin. The kind of the tendrils of cellulose that make it up are really small. That gives it some really interesting material properties. You can kind of think of it as plant cellulose being these big chains, kind of like my arms like this. But bacterial cellulose is kind of like a woven web of really thin pieces of cellulose like my fingers here. This gives it a lot of really interesting properties that make it functionalizable for some really interesting purposes. The second part of my plan, after I brew my kombucha and I get a little bit of cellulose layer, is I'm going to be isolating a strain of bacteria that produces cellulose. I'm going to isolate a cellulose-producing bacteria. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to take a small sample of the cellulose layer at the very top. I'm going to put it into a petri dish, and I'm just going to let it grow. And I'm going to add an additive to my petri dish, calcium carbonate. That's going to make it really cloudy. But these bacteria, they love to eat calcium carbonate in order to produce the cellulose. So I'll be able to see where the bacteria that produce the cellulose are on the plate because they're going to have a little clear halo around them as they eat that cloudy calcium carbonate. Then pick them off and put them into a new plate, isolate them so that they can grow on their own. I'll be able to make a culture of this bacteria that just produces cellulose. I don't care about making a beverage. I don't want to make kombucha. That's not my goal. My goal is just to make cellulose. Once I have a bacterial strain that can produce pure cellulose, I'm going to move on to my third phase, which is optimizing cellulose production. One of the most interesting and fascinating and amazing things about bacterial cellulose is that you can grow it from almost anything, even waste products. There are papers that show that you can grow cellulose more efficiently off of things like grass clippings from mowing your lawn than off of the expensive reagents and media that traditional industry science has used. So I'm going to be experimenting with literally my lawn waste. Can I grow cellulose off of my lawn waste for free, essentially, versus basic ingredients from the store, like chickpea flour and sugar, table sugar? And I'm going to be comparing that to the expensive media reagents that in the past industry labs have used that has made the production of bacterial cellulose pretty expensive. I'm going to find out, can we make cellulose really cheaply in a garage lab setting? Once I've optimized that, my goal, the dream, is to functionalize this cellulose. What does that mean? When I say functionalize, I mean I'm going to be adding things into the cellulose that make it do interesting things. For example, you could use it to make a filter. If you want to pull heavy metals out of water, like at a water treatment facility, for example, the way that they do it now is they'll often use oil-based products to kind of create filters that pull the metals out. But you could add the same things that pull the metal out, you can add it onto a sheet of bacterial cellulose, and you can filter the heavy metals out just as efficiently, and you're growing this off of, again, waste products, not oil. Another really interesting application of bacterial cellulose is as something to help plants grow. If you coat a seed in bacterial cellulose, it can help the seed grow better even when there's less water, because the cellulose will hold on to the water and provide nutrients to the seed as it grows. This could be used to help grow crops in an area that has less water. Maybe as our climate changes and there's less water available, it's drier, it's hotter, we're going to need these kinds of coatings on our seeds to help us grow our food better. I think that's a really promising avenue as well. There's also some really interesting ways that you could use bacterial cellulose as a building material. It doesn't take any carbon dioxide to produce it because, again, you're growing it off of waste products. You could create a building material to build homes or insulation. There's also some really interesting research being done with carbon capture, where they will attach groups that capture carbon dioxide, that capture carbon dioxide out of the air. They attach those groups to the bacterial cellulose and use it as a scaffold, essentially, to do this kind of pulling carbon dioxide out of the air. That is probably a lot further away, and that's a whole nother can of worms that I'd probably have to make another video about. But I find that one really interesting as well. Now, do I think that this is just going to go as smoothly as I've outlined it here with these 4 points of brew the kombucha, isolate the bacteria, optimize growing the cellulose, and then functionalize it? It's not going to be that easy. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to contaminate my experiments. I'm going to have things that fail, and I'm not going to understand why. That's just the nature of doing this kind of independent research. But I'm going to be getting up and I'm going to be trying to build something instead of just dooming and scrolling every day. If that sounds like something that you want to be a part of, or you want to see the progress as I work on these things, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, follow along as we build this community together, as we build these kinds of solutions together. I'm also going to be sharing the process of how I came to this as the thing that I want to build and how you can find something that you want to build as well. In my next video, I'm going to be starting my first batch of kombucha, and I'm going to be starting to brew that, and I'm really excited to get started on this project. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.